Today, it's ground power U time. You have your name on your golf clubs?
I sure do.
Are you serious? I didn't know they did that. When you watch the best players in the world, we know that most of these players are going to use a lot of ground force. You've heard us talk about ground force a lot. And a lot of you at home just don't necessarily know how to do this stuff properly, or you create some big time faults. Today, in the ground power U video, we're going to teach you how to move aggressively into and through positions that you would see of the world-class players that produce lots of power and speed. Using the ground is a very vital part of your success when it comes to being able to swing the golf club. But the ground isn't going to do all the work for you. You have to be able to go into and through these positions exactly how Jason and I are going to outline for you. And then as you start to embark on the journey even further, and when you get to step number 3 today, you're going to be able to take a lot of this detailed stuff and consolidate it down into one very specific thought, the ground power U. Let's get to work. Oh yeah, Jace wanted me to remind you, if you like today's video, leave a thumbs up for us. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post that stuff up below. We'd love to help you. We'd love to help people play this game. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we love spreading our message. We love helping people play. Let's get to work. So in order to do this drill effectively at first, just to be able to back check that you're doing these movements properly, I would strongly suggest that you have a mirror that you can put some sort of line on, or you have some sort of live view camera that you can use that you can see your movements while you're working on it. You're also going to want to probably have an impact bag when we start getting further into the drill because we're going to want to stop you at impact so that we can check the positions. Those are the only 2 things that you're going to need in order to start dialing in this movement. The reason why we want to be able to use a mirror at first is because when we draw that line on the mirror, we want you to get comfortable seeing the belt line or your belt buckle start to drop down below the line in transition. And then from there, we want you to start getting accustomed to the idea that the belt buckle is going to start moving up above that line as you start to make your post-up move happen. That's the power U and how we're going to start managing it. Now in step number 1, what we're going to do is we're going to still think about what we did in video number 1, where we started to feel the pressure moving through our feet. But now what we're going to do is just warm up the backswing. So the way that this is going to work is we're going to take our setup. We're going to make sure that we are evenly balanced. And our first focus point is to make sure that our weight goes directly underneath our ankle joint. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start now making a good full turn. Now, the movement that we want you to get connected to here, because it's going to help you with the final piece of the drill, is turning your body from your rib cage or your core, trying to feel like you're winding up your midsection here as much as you possibly can. Now, the way that we're going to create stability in the pelvis here is by actively shifting a little bit of our weight into that trail side first, turning our body as close to 90 degrees as we possibly can, but maintaining some of the flex that you have in the trail leg at address. That's going to help keep the hips from over-rotating and becoming very unstable. Now, the world of golf instruction has gone down this pathway where it's in vogue to create a lot of center pivot and rotate your hips back a ton. You don't need to have your hips rotated more than 30 or 40 degrees shut in the takeaway and the backswing, just so you understand that. That's what you would see of a lot of the best players in the world, is that the hip rotation is very restricted going back. We create a lot of separation between the hip line and the shoulder line. So we're going to warm up with, what do you say, Jace? 15 to 20 reps?
15 to 20 reps, whatever gets you loose.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now. Let's walk through some reps. So the focus points are a little pressure shift into the trail side, maintain some flex in that right leg, and then turn your rib cage as much as you possibly can. You want to try to turn so that your trail shoulder is popped out on this side of the head. If you do that with maintaining some flex in the trail leg, you're going to start to feel some muscle contraction here in your body and some muscles that you didn't even know you had. Now, Jace, where do you feel muscle contraction right now?
I'm feeling a lot in the glutes, a lot in the obliques.
Okay.
So really up through this whole right side of the body.
Right.
I'm feeling very, constricted.
Yep.
I mean, constricted might not be the best word, but contracted,
Yep.
It's not loose in there.
Okay, so you're feeling the tightness there, right?
Yeah, we're really winding up.
Yep, so the glutes are great for stability, right? So we want to have some engagement there in the glutes to help keep the hips from over-rotating. So a good way to do it, like I said, is just a little pressure shift, focus on where the weight's moving through your foot, turn your body as much as possible and keep that trail leg flexed and facing forward as much as you can. Do 20 reps, get yourself warmed up. You ready for step number 2? Step number 2, this is a very important part of this drill. Now, this is where your live view and your mirror are going to come in handy. Now, when we watch the best players in the world, we know that we can see their belt line drop down ever so slightly in that first critical phase that we start the downswing with, the transition, right? This is where we start to change the direction. We're going to simplify this movement for you today by thinking about it a few different ways. Now, the first thing we want you to understand is that the way that we're going to start transferring our weight onto that lead side is we don't want to start shoving off of our trail leg. we want to fall off of our trail side. And a good way to think about doing that and getting your weight moving back to your lead side is thinking about your trail foot rolling to the inside portion of it. That's going to force the body to start moving left. Now, at that same time, when you're using your mirror or your live view, what you want to look at is that the belt line should start to drop down below your initial starting point. So you start out by drawing a line on your belt line at address. You're going to turn your body into your trail side. You're going to start to roll to the inside portion of the trail foot. And now as you do that, you want the belt line to start dropping down below where you started. Now, here's the key, is that if you think about what we did in video number 1, and we talked about where the pressure is moving through your feet, if you focus on the pressure landing in your left ankle, then what that's going to do to your hips is it's going to force the hips to shift and unwind without having to think about all that. We want to eliminate the technical thinking that needs to go into this stuff. That's the beauty of this drill. So Jace, let's go ahead and start doing some demonstration now. So we're going to go ahead and load to the trail side. So the belt line has stayed fairly level here, even though the belt buckle should be slightly above the line. Now what we're going to do from this position is we're going to start to roll to the inside portion of the trail foot to get the body moving. And we're going to really be cognizant of the belt buckle dropping down below the line and the weight landing where?
In the lead ankle.
So in the lead ankle. So if you watch his hips now when he makes this movement happen, you can see that the hips are really closed. And by focusing on the pressure moving through the lead ankle, they start to unwind. They're almost back to a square position. How much weight do you feel underneath your lead ankle when you make that movement?
I mean, definitely the majority, probably somewhere in the 80 to 90% range.
So 80 to 90% of the weight now underneath the lead ankle. We did that by focusing on the trail foot, helping get the movement started, the belt buckle dropping down below the line, and where the weight is moving through the foot. So now we're going to do 20 reps with step number 1 and step number 2 blended together. But we're going to start really slow. And as we go through these reps, we're going to start to increase the speed of these things, where it's going to almost be like a real golf swing. So let's go ahead and start out. Okay, we'll go real slow here. So a little pressure shift trail side. Okay, go ahead and move off of it. A little drop down. That's 1 rep. Okay, good. Make sure that belt buckle drops down. Focus on the weight landing in the lead ankle. Good.
I'd say once you start to get comfortable, you can probably get to a more fluid movement.
Yep. So we'll work at the pace you feel comfortable. Does that simplify the whole weight shift by thinking about where the weight lands in the foot?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not really thinking about my hips having to open here. They're just kind of doing it naturally.
Right. So if the weight were not to land underneath the ankle joint, what we would see is that the pelvis would be sliding a lot. And that's what we call a closed hip slide. And that's what gets a lot of people into trouble when they start trying to get the pressure out of the ground at that point. And it's very, very dangerous on the knee and the hip over the long haul. So once you've completed about your 20, 25 reps or so, then you're ready to graduate into
Step 3.
Step number 3, that's right. Now let's do 1 or 2 more reps and then we're gonna move into step number 3.
Let's do it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good job. Step number 3. This is where we bring it all together. This step has got a lot of information in it. It's gonna be the longest of the 3 steps because this is where we start making it a real golf swing. But we're gonna be working from a static address position to impact and getting you very stable at impact through your post-up movement. But we're gonna be doing that by simplifying the way that you think about your post-up movement. This is where the Power U gets fully complete. Now, there is gonna be some information that's gonna be added into what you were doing on steps number 1 and 2 here, but I want you to understand that the goal here is to be able to get yourself into the most stable impact position that you can be in and the most safe position that you can be in. How we're gonna start out by doing the drill is we're gonna do it slow and chunky first, just to get connected to the movement and to see the belt buckle doing what we want it to do. And then as we start to get proficient with these movements, we're gonna start giving you that final piece of the puzzle that's gonna help it make a real powerful light golf swing when it's all said and done. So Jace, let's go ahead and demonstrate the movement here. So first order of business is we need to load into the trail side and we need to start that transition. So now we've got a bulk of that pressure now moving underneath the lead ankle. Now what we're gonna do here is we're gonna keep our head and chest down and we're gonna push down into the ground and we're gonna take that belt buckle and rotate it up and away from the line that you have there at address. Now, what's gonna help the hips rotate open is your obliques, your core. That's what's rotating the hips. A lot of people have this sort of misconception that the ground is rotating the hips. It's not. The ground is assisting that movement, but your obliques are what's responsible for rotating the hips here. Now, by setting yourself up when you drive down into that lead ankle and you start pushing back and you rotate the hips properly, you should have some glute engagement on the lead side now, which is great for what?
Great for pushing off the ground.
It's great for stability, or pushing off the ground, if you will, but it's great for stability.
We like being stable.
Right? Stability is the key to this whole big picture of your golf swing. You don't want your body becoming unwarranted and moving all over the place. You want your body to go through a loading process and an unloading process, and you want it to stop, and then you want your hands and your arms and your golf club to go really fast. That's the trebuchet sort of effect, right? Now, we're gonna start out by drilling this slow and chunky at first. We're gonna do about 15 to 20 reps just to make sure the movements are done right. We're gonna be using a mirror, making sure that we see our belt line drop down, and then we're gonna be rotating the belt up and away from that line as much as we possibly can as we push down in the ground. So 10 to 15 reps, 15 to 20 reps. Okay, good. So slow and chunky. Make sure the positions are done right, push down in the ground. Try to keep the head and the chest very quiet when you're pushing down in the ground and rotating that belt buckle up above the line. You kind of see that line in your brain, Jace?
I see the line, I feel the line.
You're gonna drop down underneath it. Good, belt buckle up, there, perfect, nice. That right there is the entire drill. Now we need to teach you how to practice it. So now what we're gonna do in this step is we're gonna start taking what we did in step number 1, that sort of coiled up feeling that we had in the midsection, and we're gonna try to maintain that while we do the leg and the footwork, just like we've been learning all along. So Jace, let's go ahead and demonstrate what this is gonna look like. So you should be very proficient with steps 1, 2, and 3 in slow, chunky fashion in order for you to get to this part. So we're gonna go through the load process, belt buckle drops down, and post up. Try to make sure that the shoulders are going to be more square at impact. Your hips should be open 35 to 45 degrees max. I know you heard me just say 40 to 45, but 35 to 45 max, okay? Let's do another rep. So we're gonna load. Good, so now, simplify the whole process. Think about your core staying engaged, your belt buckle dropping down below the line, and now you're firing up out of the ground to move the belt buckle up to complete the power U. If you think about how to simplify the process and you start to eliminate some of the things that you had to think about to get us to this point, now you have a really big movement here that's very, very strong for you to be able to take onto the golf course. So Jace, let's talk. When you do this movement, I want you to go through it for me real quick.
Okay.
Because everybody's gonna process this stuff differently.
Right.
Go through the movement, demonstrate it like at a good rate of speed here,
Okay.
and land at impact. Now talk to me a little bit about what the focus points, what you felt, or what you really kind of latched onto in that drill.
You know what I really latched onto, and is a great visual for me, is you need to feel your belt buckle and feel the imaginary line, because if you imagine that belt buckle is going to go below that line in the transition, and like Chris was saying, we keep our obliques nice and tight, we keep the upper body facing backwards, then it sets you up for a perfect position to shoot that belt buckle up right above that line.
Okay.
So for me, if you just focus on that belt buckle, you really don't have to think about much else, you know, technically body-minded, right? You just think about, I'm going to make sure my belt buckle moves in that U motion, right?
Exactly. So that's exactly what we wanted you to get from this video. I know a lot of you at home are probably thinking to yourself, well, how am I going to think about the pressure in my feet, how much pressure, all of this added movement that Chris and Jason just put into the mix. But remember this, we just had you do a substantial amount of reps. You should be pretty proficient with the weight where it's moving through your feet.
Right.
You should be pretty proficient with the load process going on. And you certainly should know how to get that belt buckle to drop down underneath the line and where your weight's gonna be landing through your foot. So you can start to take all of these thoughts and consolidate them down and think about now just the belt buckle. Think about where it is. Load into the trail side, let the belt buckle drop down slightly, and as you start to feel that weight hit the lead foot as it's dropping down, then move it up out of the ground, and now you have the entire power U mastered. Jace, let's walk through it.
Let's walk through it.
Okay. Good. Okay. So once you get to a point where you feel like you're working at your golf course cadence, where you feel like, okay, that's how I would really be swinging a golf club.
Right.
Now these next few steps as part of step number 3 is just adding more to it. Now what we're gonna do is add the lead arm to the mix. Now remember, in the golf swing, the body goes through this really quick acceleration, then it decelerates. It allows the hands and the arms to become independent from the body so that the club is moving really fast at the end of that stick, right? And so what you're gonna do here is you're gonna basically let your lead arm swing past your body. Your body's gonna stop and your lead arm is gonna swing and fling off of the body there really quickly. So let's go ahead and start up into a good static address position, trail hand behind your back. Okay, now go ahead and load, shift, get out of the ground. So that out of the ground sensation is helping propel the arm faster down through the bottom. Okay, good. So now you're thinking about just creating that power U through the hips. Thinking about that belt buckle. Good. So you should feel really stable on the lead side. You got some really good mobility in your hips, huh?
I try to. Lots of Pilates, lots of yoga.
You got a lot.
I'm just kidding.
You can open your hips up. You can rip your hips open. So now you just learned how to add the arm back to the mix. Now we can start having some fun, and we can introduce the old impact bag and a golf club. Now, you can do this with your left hand if you want to. Choke way down on the club to take some of the weight out of it, or you can simply just stay committed to the movements and keep your grip pressure and your arm tension very light and let it follow along with these movements. Get proficient with this and start making some snap into the bag here. Good. Now the reason why we use an impact bag is to be able to check the positions. Is he in neutral joint alignment on the lead side of his body? Are his hips open the amount that we wanted them to be? Are his shoulders nice and square to the target line? If all of those requirements are met and you're doing a substantial number of reps here and you're starting to get comfortable with it, then you can move the bag away, start making some full swings, and then you can introduce the golf ball. These drills that we gave you today are designed to stack. We want to be able to stack in pieces, but we want you to become proficient with the movements before you start putting the icing on the cake. If you just skip to step number 3 and you're just focusing on the belt buckle and the belt buckle alone, and you don't have the weight and the pressure moving through your feet properly, then there's a pretty good chance that you're going to create some of those big time faults that we see of all the amateur golfers in the world that play this game at not such a great level.
We want to play it at a great level at MyGolfDNA.
Play it at a great level at MyGolfDNA. Thank you. That was really good, Jace. Thank you. So there it is. That's the Power U. Now, I hope you guys have some great success with this. If you have any questions or comments, you want to post that up below, please post that stuff up below. We'll help you out as best as we possibly can. If you need help, which we suggest that a lot of you do need help when it comes to being able to build your own golf swing, then come over to MyGolfDNA. Every membership that you take out, you get to sit down in a consult format with Jason and I. We sit there, we go through your swings with you, we lay out your plan, and then you get to work and you have endless support day in and day out. Every single one of you gets that sort of support when you come to MyGolfDNA because we know that you're different. We like that you're different. We have to have a plan that's designed perfectly for your DNA, and that's exactly what you're gonna get. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Get out there, let's start playing some great golf this year.